name's Paul Jenkins, Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub. I'm delighted to be joined today by Kerry Sanders, Vice President of e-commerce at EFI. Welcome, Kerry.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Looking forward to a really insightful conversation over the next few minutes or so.
Yeah,
so first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do for EFI.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm the Vice President of e-commerce Center of Excellence. So it's not the part of EFI where we're selling, widgets online. It's the part of EFI where we're really looking at e-commerce for an opportunity to better address the needs of that retail model. And I joined EFI about a year ago. Of history and printing and advertising, so it just made sense for me to take this role. And if your listeners are not familiar with EFI, it stands for Electronics for Imaging, been around for a long time. The division that I'm in is focused on the manufacturing of digital printing presses for corrugated. And I mean corrugated materials like cardboard materials for boxes. And as we all know, e-commerce and that, retail engagement requires shipments, more shipments, driving a lot of corrugated consumption. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to look at that in relation to trying to better drive awareness and explain the digital value proposition to everybody, involved in those e-commerce transactions from brands and retailers. It's a massive opportunity for us, and I've been really pleased with the work that I've been able to do so far.
Excellent. And it's very much a global business?
Global business, yes. EFI is in all countries. We have either manufacturing, sales organizations, support organizations in several countries around the world.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, you mentioned e-commerce. So what do you sort of see as the overall opportunities for corrugated providers in these very, fast-growing e-commerce segment?
Yeah, sure. So, from a retail standpoint, I think the last report that I read is e-commerce was $6 trillion of commerce globally in 2022 and had been growing in the 20% range since year on year since 2017. That's massive, right? Now, we're all aware that we don't know what's going to happen in the second half. People are predicting, recession. And so, we don't know what the growth rate is going to be, but everything that I read so far is saying that e-commerce is going to continue to grow in the single digits, right? Even with the recession. So e-commerce is not going anywhere. It's continued, to get bigger. Smithers released a report in late 2022 on what the corrugated or really the packaging opportunity was for all of e-commerce. And if I remember correctly, total market for e-commerce packaging in 2022 was $64 billion. $64 billion.
When you say it like that, it's a huge, huge number, isn't it?
It's massive. And just think about your own e-commerce journeys as a consumer, right? And we call it the circle of life in my house. But, packages show up at the front door, they sit, on a table for a little while, you unpack them, they go right into the recycling bin. And this happens daily for us. In my house, at least it does. And I think that you're shaking your head. I think that's true for you as well. So of the $64 billion, 80% of that is corrugated packaging. So 51-ish, 52-ish billion dollars in 2022. And Smithers, again, predicts that to grow to 83% of all packaging for e-commerce. So, for sustainability, for recyclability, there's a number of reasons why packaging is switching to fiber-based materials, right? And we're going to see that in e-commerce as well. When we, as EFI, look at the mix of that $51 billion, because we're a printing company, we kind of categorize it in low graphic requirements, high graphic requirements. And we think 60 to 70% of that 51 billion is what we consider low graphic. And that would be brown box, just shipping for supply chain purposes and protective, purposes, to 1 or 2 color flexo requirements, right? And think about your typical e-commerce shipper. If you've received an Amazon box, the Smile box, it's a 1 color box. for now at least. And so we would consider that low graphic requirement. So 60 to 70% of that 51 billion. The remainder of that is what we consider high graphic requirements. And so that would be 3+ color flexographic printing, litho-laminate printing, and of course, digital printing where we sit. And that's a big number. We think that mix is going to change significantly over the next couple of years, so that makes that opportunity even more appealing to EFI. And then one final thing, if you don't mind, when we look at the geographic mix of that number, Asia by far, because of China, South Korea, and Japan, is massive. It's 53% of that total number. So e-commerce in China is by factors bigger than any other market. And I think if I remember correctly, North America is like 25%, Europe is like 18 or 19%, and then Latin America and Middle East Africa, they're both single-digit percentages of the overall mix and opportunity. So, that's a little bit of Smithers, that's a little bit of us, that's a little bit of me just doing research on e-commerce, but it'll give you a sense of how big this opportunity is for the corrugated industry.
Excellent. So do you see the high value efforts increasing around the world? I mean, that's really encouraging that brands and retailers see the opportunity for the presentation and the look and feel of the box, which is effectively secondary packaging. That unboxing experience and the whole way it projects the brand values, it's an important thing, and it's only going to increase, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. And that's exactly right. And that's why we think that 60 to 70% is going to move. There's also some other initiatives and trends that are driving that I think we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But that box is a way to cut through the noise, right? Related to digital ads, related to branding opportunities. There's an emotion involved in that unboxing experience, right? It's, I had an opportunity to talk to a packaging thought leader, and they summed it up really well. Is they said that the brand's opportunity to connect to the consumer is really strong at the time of unboxing, because it has the opportunity to bring the emotion back to when the consumer made the purchase, right? So think about your own, journey. You go online, you buy something that you're interested in, right? And then life happens, right? You have to replace tires, your child gets a bad report, or a bad grade, something happens and your boss is angry at you or whatever. So your emotion goes down, right? When the package shows up, your emotion goes back up. And if it's well branded, that emotion is connected to that brand at that moment. And that's very unique to e-commerce. And so I think sophisticated brands are thinking about that unboxing experience, that package, that journey differently. So right on with what you said, completely aligned.
And the opposite is true. If the packaging doesn't fulfill those dreams, then
that's exactly right.
That's a real negative. So,
yeah, that's exactly right.
How can people get hold of you?
So it's easy to get a hold of me. It's my name, Kerry.Sanders@EFI.com. So KERRY.SANDERS@EFI.com. Or, you can go to our website and consume, some of the information that we've posted there. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I mean, that's my job, is to, to be this educator, if you will, to grow the awareness on the value proposition. And then, things like the tutorials that we're going to host on the ThePackHub is another way for folks to get more information on that. So really looking forward to that.
Thank you. Both your passion and enthusiasm is brilliant and really comes through. So Kerry Sanders, thank you very much for your time. And it's been a really enjoyable conversation.
Thank you, Paul. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.